Welcome to Overkill with me, Theresa Hong. This is episode 2. Thank you for all of your support for the first episode. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. You can find us on www.effitt.com. We're also on iTunes now, so you can go ahead and search for effitt and get us just on audio if you're just an audio type of person. And of course, you can always find us on YouTube. So we are here at the Partisan again. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
My special guest, Chenté Cervantes.
Thank you.
He is a lifelong Mercedian, kind of has been coming and going with his professional career. He is a wonderful choreographer and a wonderful actor and a wonderful singer.
Oh.
Yes, absolutely. And I am so pleased that you are here. Thank you so much for agreeing.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also produce his show, the Chenté Talk Show, that we recorded on Sunday, and you can also get on our website, which I've already said. You're brilliant. You're just like the Renaissance man.
Oh.
Yeah, you're the Renaissance man of Merced.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So tell me about, you've been here in Merced forever and ever, but you left for a little bit.
I did. I was in Merced, and then I left and went to Los Angeles to go to school, and then came back to Merced for a little while, and then moved to New York after that. And then that was about 2006, 2007, came back to Merced, and I've been here ever since 2007.
So what made you come back?
Well, I was, there was some family troubles, and my grandmother was getting ill, and then I actually was going to do a show in Salinas, and so when I came back, decided to come back, all of that just happened, and it just seemed like a nice sign for me to come back to California, to come back to the family, come back to what local, comfort zone that I had known before, and so it was easy for me to make that transition back here from there. The city was a different world than it is here in Merced.
And when you say the city, do you mean New York?
New York,
okay.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of the life there. I mean, it was a culture shock getting there and then coming back here and just knowing the convenience and the accessibility. And I think I grew up here in California, and so moving somewhere there, I had never been to New York before I went over there.
Wow.
I packed
and how old
all my
were you?
stuff. I was 26.
You were young.
Yes. Well, I was young. Yes, I was young. I was a young one.
Young lad.
And
okay.
Moved over there, packed all my stuff, sent it before I even got there. Never had been there. And it didn't really hit me until I got on the plane and sat next to a dance teacher from, I believe it was a university. Gosh, I can't even remember which university it was, but she was a dance teacher, and we started talking. And she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to New York." And she said, "Oh, to visit?" And I said, "No, to live." And she said, "Have you ever been there?" And I was like, "No, I'm going home. Like, that's going to be home now." And it just hit me then on the plane, and that was really a fun experience. But then after a while of being there through the winter, and then just knowing that I wanted to come back home. So
yeah.
Merced is home to me.
And why did you go there in the first place?
I wanted to try my hand out in auditioning on Broadway, see what kind of work could come out from Broadway. Studying performance arts and choreography and dance in Los Angeles brought me back here, but of course at the time I really wasn't associated with any particular group of theater or dance groups or any theater, so I wanted to go out to a bigger city. Everyone's like, "You should go to New York, you're a performing artist and you're great, you should go to New York." So I was like, "I'll go to New York."
Right.
And went out there and tried it. I actually did get to audition a lot on Broadway and go through a lot of trial and errors in the audition process, but then found that I wasn't really comfortable. I didn't like being a small fish in a big pond as much as I like being a big fish in a small pond. Mm-hmm. And that's where I find my comfort. Mm-hmm. And it's different for everybody. I would never tell anybody not to try it, but just know your strong points and know where you're going to be great.
Well, you're very much a mentor, I think, for especially the theater community. And I know that you are outside as well. I know that you recently directed Honk,
Yes.
and that was, that consisted of, little bitty kids, and it was fabulous show. And I know just after the show, all of the kids coming up to you and giving you hugs and just, oh, thank you, Chenté, thank you, that's got to be rewarding. That's got to be, but at the same time, I think that a lot of older individuals, myself, you're the person that, really has been encouraging me, get back into it. So I understand that totally. And I don't think that Merced would really be the same flavor without you.
Yeah, it's funny because I know that you and I have talked a lot about Merced and being a part of effitt and Ubiquitast and having the talk show itself. It seems to go under people's radar that without all of us here making this place happen, it doesn't happen. New York survives without me. People are on Broadway all the time doing
Right.
shows and closing shows and whatever the case may be, opening new ones. Los Angeles, the same thing. They have all their workshops and they're doing great things down there, film and television. But here, without each and every one of us that makes the fabric of this community, we don't happen. And so I think having some sort of understanding that there are those people that need to go out and be successful and enjoy their celebrityhood
But you
in
are
a big
successful.
city. Absolutely.
Right.
Out in the big world, I'm saying, is different than understanding how much impact you can have on creating the next generation or building up people's self-esteem or potential in becoming those things that you maybe necessarily don't want or can't do. I think in any way that happens.
So at heart, you really are a teacher.
I would have to agree with that wholeheartedly. The one thing I never really wanted was fame. I wanted to, always it's a dream of anybody who's in the performing arts to do
Sure.
Broadway. Sure, I would never turn down the opportunity to do a Broadway show or a Los Angeles show or any kind of big scale production, but my heart comes from a place of making others become and share the experiences that I've had in my success, throughout theater and the dance world and in any of the performing arts.
Well, we definitely, I think, when I say we, Merced really does need you. And I think that you really have, between you and Rob, brought the theater back. Rob Hypes is the director of the Playhouse Merced.
Yes.
So shout out to Rob. I think that you guys have elevated it and brought in such good talent, and even those that may think that they have talent or may not even think that they have talent, you guys are really good at identifying that, and you guys are really good at kind of molding them into really, really fine actors and actresses. It's really neat to see how, I said neat, it's great to see how the actors and actresses kind of evolve within each show, and I can't say, obviously, yes, they're working on their craft, that kind of thing, but I think that it's kind of your mentorship and your encouragement that gives them the confidence to do that.
Right.
And that's really, really a cool thing.
It is a cool thing. We talk about it a lot. In fact, last night we had talked about just our productions and our success. We were looking back at some old footage and just going from then to now and where we want to be and seeing the difference in the people who came in and had absolutely no self-esteem or the ability to do it themselves and be
Right.
completely confident.
Yeah.
And where we took them, and that journey, even with children or adults, doing children's productions is such a rewarding experience. And bringing them all the way through to the point where they didn't think they could, now they can, now they want to.
Right.
Is a journey that only the benefits from that, the rewards from that, is only satisfactory to somebody who is selfless. And not saying like pat on my back or anybody else's,
but
it's
pat on
just
your back.
it's such a selfless act to be able to give that
Yes.
gift to somebody else and say, now you take it and do
Right.
what you want. And that's what happened with me as a child, and that's what influenced me to become a theater artist or a performing artist, was that somebody said they saw the potential, they gave me the opportunity, and they nurtured it into a point where I, looking back, wanted to be that person. That was my mentor, And so if I'm able to put that into one person in my life, my life's fulfilled in that way. The way that I feel like somebody else's life would be fulfilled because they do that for others.
Absolutely. Now, who encouraged you?
My very first production, I'd never done any theater. I'd taken some dance classes. My very first production was with Yes Company in Modesto, with Melanie Wyatt, who I adore and still communicate with, and we still talk frequently. I mean, she's busy and I'm busy, but we still get to keep in touch and talk about what we're doing now. But she was the one who, out of 200 auditioners for a show, was only casting 30 and saw that I had the potential to be one of those 30. And when I went through that program the first year as an ensemble dancer member at 15, and then the next year got cast as a lead or a principal actually in the show, was such a life-changing experience. And even to this day, that's the one thing that I hold dear to my heart. And she was the person who nurtured that talent and was like, I think for a lot of kids now, she has casts of 80, 70 or 80 kids, but to be able to be a part of that first years of that company and see where it's going now, and to be able to do the same thing for other children, even in our own community here in Merced, is astounding.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you not only got your encouragement from, you know, a dancing and an actor, you know, in a singing perspective, but also just the whole mentorship and teaching and wow.
Yeah, so that's where I've come from. And
good pat on the back.
Well, thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm very proud of the kids. In fact, I just met a conservatory parent last night who, well, not met her, but here. We were here.
We were at the partisan.
We were at the partisan.
Woo-hoo.
So
okay.
We were enjoying trivia night, and she came up to me and we were talking about her daughter, who has danced with me for 4 years in the studio, and then decided to come out and do 42nd Street, which I directed last summer for the conservatory, which was huge and like taking on. And she's from there she did The Wizard of Oz, King and I, Music Man with me. Wizard of Oz and King and I she did with other directors and choreographers, which was amazing for her to get that experience. But she never knew she wanted to do that until I asked her, I need you to come in and tap this show for me. And she said, do I have to sing? And of course I'm like, no, you don't have to sing. Of course not. Just with a group. And we gave her solos and everything, and shoot. It was phenomenal. But it's that sort of potential that you see in somebody to be able to say, now you do it.
Right. And
you be great. Because I believe that you can. The way that it was given to me, you know, through my drama teacher in high school, John Dwight Benefield. He's now passed on, but he was a great believer in everything, supported everything that I did all the way up until his passing. He followed me, and his wife still is like, he made sure he knew exactly what you were doing all the time. Right. Because he believed in you, and that was amazing.
That's really cool. That's cool. And so, there's a pretty incredible upcoming, well, now we're in the current season.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
We're getting ready to start this.
Yeah, exactly. Could you tell me a little bit about the upcoming season? And I know you really don't care about anything that's non-musical.
No.
Because he is a dancer and he is a singer.
I am a dancer and a singer.
But yeah, tell us, because it really, I want everybody in Merced to know about this little gem and just how far it's come. So
absolutely. We're in our 19th season, I believe, 18th or 19th season. I'm going to say 19th. Of Playhouse Merced, and maybe it's our 18th. We're starting off with 9 to 5, which is a new musical. Just got off Broadway a year ago, 2 years ago, and is very new. It's written by Dolly Parton, the music with special arrangements and based off the movie. So now we're bringing that to Playhouse Merced, which is amazing to be able to get a new piece of work and say, let's do it ourselves. Then after that closes, we go into the Rocky Horror Show. Well, after A Few Good Men.
Yeah, A Few Good Men. That's not,
which is
that's
not
a non-musical.
All right. But it's still an amazing show.
It's still an amazing show.
And that will be at MCAC with the partnership that we've developed there. And then Playhouse Merced will be doing Rocky Horror Show, which is going to be a huge
phenomenal
show. Yay! And it's, I believe, the first time that Playhouse Merced has ever done Rocky Horror.
Can they bring toast? Can they do all that? No.
We haven't talked about the logistics on, so.
Okay, all right.
We might be checking purses.
We're going to confiscate your toast.
Your toast and your water guns.
All right.
After that, we go into, I believe, There's The Hobbit in there somewhere. Annie is happening, which is our Christmas show,
Yes.
and that runs for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Which our usual run is 3 weeks. So to have a 4-week children's show is amazing.
Awesome.
Those kids need that, and they'll deserve it.
Yes.
Then after that, there's Jesus Christ Superstar, which happens around Easter time,
Yes.
which is a great musical.
Yes. Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Which
Yeah.
I did 10 years ago on this stage. I was in the cast of
And
Jesus
you
Christ
were?
Superstar. I was one of the apostles.
No.
I was one of the apostles,
Okay.
and I was understudy to Simon.
Okay,
So,
all right,
yeah.
okay.
Was a very fun show to do. It's huge. The Hobbit, which is based off of
Yes.
the
J.R.R. Tolkien.
the J.R.R. Tolkien,
Yes.
right? And it's the play version.
Awesome.
Then after that, there's the Merced, Born and Raised, and Dearly Departed, which are 2 non-musicals. The Merced, Born and Raised is one acts that are written, directed, and acted by local Merced people or community members who want to contribute, who are not locals, or
Right.
residents, long life residents, but people who live here, and it's one act's based on the Merced area, and it's awesome.
Yes.
Then the big season closer is West Side Story. West Side Story.
Again, goosebumps.
Huge
Yay.
show.
Yes, it's gonna be huge.
Huge
Yes,
show.
yes, and you will definitely be.
I will be directing and
Yes.
choreographing. Yes, I will.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
That is a true story.
Yes, that is awesome.
So I'm very proud to be able to put my own flavor on West Side Story. which
I'm
is
excited to
an
see your
amazing-
flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love the show, but it'll be quite a different way to.
undertaking.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very big undertaking
Uh-huh.
to do a show of that caliber.
But you're seeing something kind of different. You're seeing your own kind of vision.
Yes,
bringing life.
absolutely, which is amazing to be able to do with the show. And I want to make sure that the story is still there. And I love keeping things as true as possible, unless there's a need for
Yes.
a little bit of revising and making things a little more meaty.
Yes.
But a story like when I did Music Man, I kept it all
Right,
natural.
right.
And for West Side Story, I want to be able to do the same thing, but use the people in a way that is comfortable and it looks amazing to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, you grew up in Delhi.
I did grow up in Delhi, which is about 20 minutes north of here, about 16, 17 miles north of Merced.
Okay.
I did grow up there.
And we've talked about this before, and you know that my feelings as far as being gay or straight. I don't think it should even be an issue. But growing up gay in Delhi,
Yes.
it's kind of a little bit of a rough area.
It is a rough neighborhood to grow up.
Yeah, and for you being, just Chenté and being just awesome anyway, but having to grow up into that, especially like middle school and high school.
Sure.
How did that affect you? I mean, did that make you, you had the balls to go to New York.
Right.
At 26.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting on a plane. It's my home.
Get on a plane.
I'm
Don't
going
know what
home.
I'm doing. Gonna
Yeah.
go to New York and
right.
see what it's all about.
Right. So I'm just wondering how that kind of molded you.
I think that had a lot to do with it. A lot of my theater career and just being a performer, just a little bit of backstory on that is that you make yourself purposefully vulnerable to everything that's going to happen to you on that stage. When you're on stage, you might as well not have clothes on.
Yes.
People are looking into you.
Yes.
They're not looking at you. And it's such a different place to be at in your life on stage as a performer. So being in a town where you're ridiculed, or even in an area where you're ridiculed or looked down upon or just looked at differently for being who you are,
Yes.
you learn how to use that performance technique in order to make the best possible quality of life for yourself. One of the things that I've always prided myself on was the very first thing that I've always ever demanded of people is, I will respect you and you will respect me. And not because I'm different, not because I am and you're not, or you are and I'm not,
Right.
but because I'm not going to take that,
Right.
and I don't deserve it. And so I think seeing other people, youth, growing up in Delhi and having to struggle through that, it was it was sort of a tug of war to be the kind of person who wanted to mentor them and to bring them into a place where they can feel
just
comfortable.
always wanted to be a mentor and teacher.
It was such my life.
I was 12 years old and I was counseling the 10-year-olds.
I'm going to start being a life coach. or to allow them to not be enabled and let them find their path. But even in high school, middle school, high school, you learn how to roll with the punches. You learn how to, and this is not literal, but to soften the blow. And so when people start making fun of you or poking at you, you learn either you're going to fight back, you're going to give in, or you're going to stand your ground and just be who you are. And I think that's what I chose to be.
Right. Not fight or flight. You just boom.
I was here, and there was nothing that was going to stop me. And I became more empowered, and a lot of people respected that because I was never giving. Sure, you can make fun of me all you want. Everybody does. Everybody makes fun of everybody. It's fantastic. But if you learn to appreciate who you are and be a part of that and embrace that, people don't have the power anymore over you. And I think that's such an amazing place to be, and it's such a great lesson to learn, is that when you take the power away from people, they realize that there is no other option but to respect you and to be there and cohabit the space with you. And
well, even more than just cohabitate. Well, even more than that, I think people actually embraced you. I mean, you were telling me a story the other day of a person that you did not get along with in high school.
Sure.
And now, he's a really good friend of yours.
Right, and that happens so often. Right. There were several people, but one in particular whom I did not get along with, mostly because of our social groups. And high school is such a vulnerable place to be for a child or for a teenager who's not comfortable even in their own skin, let alone in the skin of the people. There's so many expectations, and you have to be that person that people want you to be, and you have to find your own way. A lot of people go through, which is why I absolutely adore working with teenagers, because they're in that place where it's okay to be different. You don't have to be or have to not be, but you just have to know who you want to be and who you are and be true to that. It's such a great lesson to give and to teach others. But as I grew up and stood my own, and I was, president of the drama club for 3 years and secretary for 1 year and was in choir and was the cheerled for and coached cheerled, or cheerleading. I was always being picked on by other people, and that wasn't something that I would ever let affect me. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but I'm not saying I would ever have gone back and changed anything to be accepted, because who I am now is who the people around me who made fun of me look up to, and that's something that you can't give people.
No.
They have to just be that. And so now when I see those people from high school who were always, the gay guy, the queer, blah, 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 through the halls, and now they're looking at me and I'm looking at them on Facebook. Right. The beauty of Facebook, to be able to go back and not to gloat, but just in a way that you get to say, hey,
what are you doing?
Remember?
Yeah.
Remember, how tough that is? I hope that you're not teaching that to your children. I hope that you're not teaching that to your nephews and nieces. And I hope that you're not still that way. Because there's nobody.
Great way to look at it.
Absolutely.
This is a
lesson learned. It's a great lesson learned.
Yeah, I mean, because it had to be hurtful. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we're good friends. We were having a conversation just last week about how one of now your most favorite words is fag. It's a term of endearment for you. It's a fag.
It really is.
And
it makes me do that every single time.
Yeah, it makes me giggle. And I found that very interesting, and that's why I asked you. Last week when we were having this conversation, it's like, well, did people call you that in high school, being aggressive and being, just like what you said, that fag, that queer, that kind of thing. So how did you flip that? How did you come to that attitude where now you just kind of laugh about it and go, oh, that's so sweet.
Which is probably making people cringe, but it's one of my favorite words. I love the word fag. I think it's such an... It only holds the power that you give it. And when you take that power away from it, it becomes another word. And so for me, when people would call me fag in high school, or faggot, I always thought, like, what do I ever do that gives you, like, who am I to you that puts me in that box?
Right.
And I'm not in that box. I'm
right.
not,
No, you're not in any box.
No,
right.
You know,
there's no box.
There is no boxes.
That holds
we'll
Chenté.
make that clear.
Okay.
I will be very
All
clear
right.
about that. And so I took the power out of that. It didn't hurt me because there was no power there. The word didn't do anything to me. So for me, it became one of those things that I could laugh at when people call me fag, because are you serious? Like, you're calling me fag, and probably more often than not, the people who are calling others fags are being defensive or of their own sexuality. And so, okay, I'm gonna let you have it. I didn't have to call anybody out on it.
Right.
Nobody has to be called. Whatever, I don't care. Either way that they go, doesn't matter to me.
Yep.
But I always think it's such an amazing word that people let have the power that it doesn't deserve.
Right.
And so I would just let it bounce off. But it really did become a term of endearment because I am obviously not super flamboyant.
No.
You know, I don't celebrate a lot of the pride and I'm not an
Well, you're
advocate.
you.
I don't go to, support groups and things like that because I don't feel like I'm any different. I don't need that support.
Right.
I don't need therapy for being who I am. I think I need therapy for others being the way they are.
That's a great way of putting
More
it.
than I need therapy
Wow.
for who I am. I'm fine.
Right.
I need to be helped because everybody else is not. So that became sort of my thing was the only people who take offense to the word fag are the people who truly are the stereotypical fag. And that's okay. I just found it really funny.
Right.
And I love all walks of life. I love everybody.
Yeah,
but
I know you do.
There's got to be a separation between me calling you white
Yeah.
and you just knowing that you're what people would call white.
Of course.
Me being called Mexican versus me understanding that I
Right.
am a Mexican. That's okay.
Right.
So it became one of those things where I want to throw it out there because there's no power behind that word unless somebody gives it to them.
Right. And I was telling you about the same word as far as being called cunt. Which is just, everybody just cringes when they hear that.
Absolutely.
And with me, it was more along the lines of if I'm called that, and I'm called that a lot, it's almost it's the same thing. It's reaching into the person who's saying that, their insecurities. It's reaching into, she's powerful, and so I'm going to call her this.
Sure.
And just kind of, and I hate to say embrace, but it lost. Well, actually, it wasn't even losing all power with me. It was kind of gaining power. It's
Sure.
like, yes. Okay. Great. It's just like,
And that's
I've got
the way that
balls.
you absorb it,
Right.
or you reflect it. And that's another thing is people use words to demean other people based on their own insecurities or their own
Right.
self unawareness or respect for other people, that they use that to try to break people down. But when somebody shows the strength in their own character, there's no way that could ever
Right.
hurt them.
It's like what you said, you just diffuse it.
Right.
You're just like,
Absolutely.
okay, I embrace it. It's all
Absolutely.
good. I smile
Yeah.
when somebody calls me cunt. It's all good.
My wit, my ability to come back and be funny was one of the ways that I pretty much survived high school without ever getting into a fight in my entire high school career. I mean, even in childhood, to being an adult, fighting is not an option for me. I will talk you out of anything, but only based on the fact that you are only standing up for your own insecurity.
Right.
But I'm standing up for the true person that I am.
Right.
And that's what helps people understand. So, yeah.
So what would you tell people, especially with like the advent of social media, and you hear all these horrible stories about, just people taunting other people on Facebook. Now, I think that I think that I share your sentiments in the sense that, you know, you've got to freaking pick yourself up, and you've got to be bigger than them, and you've got to be. But if they don't have support around them, and they're just being constantly beaten down by, you know, social media, you know, Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing. I mean, it just, I mean, the where was it? The guy in DC, you know, I mean, he was absolutely devastated and mortified, which I would be too. Somebody invaded his space. Somebody posted him, you know, having a relationship, whether it be with a male or a female, still it's an invasion of privacy. And it broke him down enough to where he took his own life. So you kind of, and I hate to, like, you know, corner you in this kind of mentorship leadership position, but you really are. I mean, you totally, I mean, you have this light about you that people are not only drawn to you, but they look up to you and they listen to you. So, I mean, what would you say to these, you know, preteens and teenagers that are going through this and are getting bombarded with this? How do they deal with that?
The best way to deal with it is to understand that people often through their youth go through phases of needing acceptance. And so I always knew that I stood alone. My group of peers that I hung out with weren't people who needed to be accepted. I just kind of found that natural group, and that's where I looked out and seen people who were questioning themselves and needing acceptance. Is don't look for acceptance in teenagers. Look for the mentor who sees the potential in you as a future adult.
I'm getting tears.
No, don't cry. But it's so important because kids are always, no matter how much we try and teach them not to say that's gay, like the public ads that happen on TV.
Well, and it's like that's retarded.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
And
you see all that.
Yeah.
Be more willing to accept yourself as a future adult and know where you're going to be and end up, rather than who you are right now and what you have to face right now, because this is temporary. And once you become out of that little funnel that tries to put people into categories, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the drama geeks, the nerds, the mathematicians, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Once you say, I'm not any of those, I just have to be me, and I will grow up to do whatever I want. Because honestly, I sew, I cook, I can draw, I can dance.
But you can kick ass too.
I
saw you the other day.
Yes.
Here.
And I can defend myself.
Yes, you can.
I didn't fight.
No, he did not fight.
I just
but
stood my ground.
Boy, yeah.
But those are the things that people don't look at, and when they feel that pressure of people telling them or calling them out on things, my biggest thing is I own it. Own it. Who cares? We don't live in an age where I mean, maybe there are places where you will get killed over it, but we don't live in a place where it's not socially acceptable. And this is not the time for us to start as young gay teenagers or straight teenagers or black teenagers or any other category that you think you're being pushed into. This is not a time for us to sit there and be bound to those stereotypes. This is a time for us to say, no, I am not just gay. I can also dance. I'm not just a gay man. I can also work in a nursing home and take care of elderly people and make a difference in somebody's life. And that's the most important thing that I think people overlook, is people like that. And I hate to say this because it's going to come across the wrong way to a lot of my viewers out there. People who take their own lives for something like that are selfish. And they're looking for the easy way out of a situation that they're too embarrassed to face for themselves. And once you own it and say, I am everything to everybody around me, and stop saying I'm nothing to those people who ridicule me, then you become more empowered and more able to live your life in such a positive light. And I think that's what helps people be drawn to you, is that you say it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't walk up to people and throw my homosexuality in their face, or my Hispanic culture in their face, or anything else that goes on in my life.
You are you.
Is just based around the idea that I am one person in a world with many people who are many different ways. And my job is to just create a sense of belonging. And that's all people want, is to belong in the world. And that's where we need to find out where we belong truly and stop worrying about now and in times of hardship when people are battling you and trying to call you out and trying to be confrontational. That's not important. That's not important. I don't have to prove myself to anyone.
Right.
There's nothing I have to do that makes me go out into the world and say, I need to be this person so you'll accept me. No, you'll accept me for who I am. And if you don't, I promise, 500 people out there will. For every one person that doesn't. And that's okay. My life is fine.
Suck that, Dr. Phil. Suck it.
So that's my message.
Sage advice.
That's my message.
Very, very sage advice. Wow. Oh my gosh.
I believe in it.
So, man, that was like freaking, that was the more you know. The rainbow should go, bing.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're aging us here.
Wow. Just cheers on that one.
I will.
My almost empty glass. So, going back then to older, maybe people who don't, may not have the worldly view as you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have Donna and Pearl.
Yes.
And they appeared on your podcast on Sunday via satellite. And it seemed very apparent that there was a little bit of a rift between you and Donna.
Mm.
I think that she even called you a little gay man.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
how does that, I mean, you know, we talked about teenagers, we talked about young, we got the message across, which that was the best message beautiful. But how then do you battle somebody like Donna Lucia, who's set in her own ways, and I don't know what the hell she's doing in Merced, but she's here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
well,
I don't know why she has such a distaste for you.
Her and I go back a little bit, and so being older and not understanding these views and is completely understandable. And there's just to get a little bit philosophical and a little bit off the topic, you have to understand the evolution of life and the evolution of humanity. Where we are today with social media and who we are in a world that lives on technology and thrives for the future is not the same world that was 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
Where technology was so new that people fought the idea of bringing it into life.
Absolutely.
So for people like her, like Donna, who doesn't really care for me personally, and I can tell you a little bit about why that is it doesn't, I just have to understand that she's a very bitter old woman who just lives in her own ways, in her own world. And so as tough as it may be, and she may be listening, she may be watching right now, I'm sorry, Donna, but that's really the way I see it, and I'm not offended and I'm not affected by that. Donna and I actually worked on a show a couple of years ago in which I was choreographing. And,
she was a dancer?
Well, she was actually brought in as a special featured role.
Good Lord, I thought she hadn't danced since Bob Hope.
That's what she had said. So
okay.
It was on her resume.
All right.
You know, I was auditioning. It was actually for a production of Maine. And so she was coming in.
Okay.
The thing that really took us apart was we were having a dance call and she brought in her own choreographer.
Of course she did.
And I was telling her, you know, the director was there and the director's like, you know, Miss Donna, you know, you come along, you know, she had come a long way and they were like, no, you need to not have your own choreographer. She brought in Jerry Mitchell.
She did not.
As her choreographer. Do you know Jerry Mitchell?
I do know
yes,
Jerry Mitchell.
Choreographed Hairspray, Catch Me If You Can, is doing great work on Broadway. And
how did she get Jerry Mitchell?
There was just arrogance, I guess, her own stubbornness and being an old woman. So when she came in, I was really offended by the idea that she would bring in her own choreographer to an audition. I mean,
who does that?
That's a diva moment right
yes,
there.
It is.
And I don't work like that. You know,
right.
I'm very comfortable in my choreography. I like to work through the process with people, and I love people to trust me.
Right.
To give them the opportunity to be the best they can be. But right off the bat, that kind of struck a chord with us, and there was a little bit of a tug of war. She ended up doing the show, and she kind of took some of my choreography and group numbers, but never really fully accepted that I was the choreographer.
And she probably never acknowledged, that
she didn't
you
respect
provided.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So her and I had a little bit of a tough time there, trying to battle it out, and that's where we kind of came to blows. And now our relationship's a little rough. And
well, she obviously though is a fan of yours. She came back to Merced. Oh, thank you.
Well, thank
Bless
you.
Our wonderful producer, Dan.
Thank you.
So she came back. I think that she's got a very love-hate relationship with you. She doesn't want to admit it, but she was over at the house a couple weeks ago because we are in contract negotiations with her.
Oh.
Yes, and I hope that doesn't bother you. But yes, we're still kind of up in the air because Pearl wants some specific type of moonshine. And we can't find it anywhere.
Friend, right?
Pearl's her friend. Yeah,
I
Pearl's
don't really
her.
know much
Yeah,
about
she's from Texas, and we get along really well. Yeah, because I'm from Texas. So yeah, they came in, and it's hard. And I hate to say this because I don't believe in anything that she stands for, but it's hard not to like her.
Okay.
She's a very, very likable person in the sense that she can cut you down. But it's so endearing that you can't help but go, it's like, did she just insult me? It's so cute, you know? And so I just, she came back, and I just get the impression that she came back because I think she loves you more than what she would, well, obviously she doesn't admit it, but I think she's a big fan of yours. I mean,
Pearl?
Yes.
No, Donna?
Donna and Pearl.
Okay.
Now Pearl's kind of, she's kind of in and out. You know, I can have some kind of clear conversations
I did see her
with her at this
on
point.
Sunday. She was a little bit older, so it was a little kind of hard to tell if she was still in her mind.
Gettys. Yeah, so I kind of take her as
with a grain of salt.
Yes. But Donna, it just seemed to me like she had a bit of a soft heart for you, actually. I don't know if it's just because she's aging and if she's kind of getting to that twilight year and she's just kind of like, oh man, this kid taught me a lot, but I don't want to admit it. So I'm not saying, you know, I'm not defending her or anything, but I'm just kind of want you to know that she seems like she likes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people right now who think that it's silly. It's really an absurd idea. They think that I actually play Donna Lucia. I actually dress up like Donna Lucia. And Theresa, there's nothing further than the truth from that.
Well, I know
that I don't play that role, but I will let all of our viewers in on a very deep secret about Donna and myself.
Oh, do tell.
And this is something that we've never discussed, and I'm sure she's not going to be very happy about the idea of me coming clean with this, but Donna is actually my great-great-aunt through marriage.
Are you serious?
Which could sort of give a little bit of that. It would give a lot of reveal to why we are the way that we are.
That is a Tootsie moment. Good God.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She is my great-great-aunt through marriage.
Through marriage.
And so she's a bit up there, and she married into the family, and so there is sort of a little bit of animosity between us both because, yeah.
Now she's
but a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was like completely out of the blue.
It's exclusive. But
she's very God Save the Queen. So what made her? I mean, there had to have been some money involved or something.
Well, my great uncle, the way that it was told to me from my grandparents and from my mom is that she actually met him in the military while he was over in England, and
was she doing a Bob Hope USA?
Yeah, she was over there entertaining the troops, and she came back to America with him and married him, stayed here for a little while, went back home, and took him back and was a little bit of estranged. You know, we didn't get a lot of communication. My family didn't get a lot of communication.
Right.
I was, of course, really young then. And when he passed on, she moved back here to where at and from, and she sort of took over.
Wow.
That's what brought her back to Merced.
Wow. So it sounds to me then, well, I mean, I really do. I believe that she really does love you. She just doesn't want to say it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it just sounds to me like
we
she
have a
didn't.
huge generation gap.
Yeah,
and
she didn't want a
so-
young whippersnapper telling her what to do. And,
Right. And now that my
and-
successes, of course, are coming up, you know,
Right.
with the talk show and being a part of the community and doing performing arts, I think it becomes a little bit of a threat to her.
Well, and she does seem like she absolutely adores the attention. So I'm wondering if she's kind of riding your coattails on that sense,
Right.
to where she's
Right.
like, oh, okay, well, Chenté is doing really well, so I'm going to come back to Merced.
Right.
Is that, I
Yeah,
mean,
well, that's what it feels. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw too much out there in case she's listening or watching. You know, that just
oh,
makes
it's
it
okay.
really awkward
It's
between
okay.
us.
It's a podcast. You can,
So.
yeah, I know. She doesn't know podcasts. She's okay.
Yeah, she probably
She
doesn't.
doesn't know. She doesn't know how to
tries to
download.
get
It's all good.
Music
No.
on a phonograph still.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's all good. It's all good.
she thinks those are iTunes.
Yeah.
Her tunes.
Yeah, it's a her tunes. Yeah, yeah,
So-
it's a book of faces.
So yeah, right. I heard something about that, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
other night she was telling me about the book of faces, and I thought she was talking about a card game, and I
Yeah.
had no idea what she was talking about. I just thought, off with her. What? I didn't know. But she was
Bless
talking
her.
about
Bless her.
Facebook. Yes,
Bless her.
yes. But she's getting pretty good because I've been following her on Facebook, and I hope that you're not.
Oh no,
Angry
no,
at me for
yeah.
doing that.
I mean, I've seen that she does have a Facebook, and
But
so.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's hard. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand, why there would be tension. But she was really charming in a cutting way.
Yeah, she
So-
can be. I think that's that dry British humor, or that dry British wit that everybody associates them with. It's not
Yeah.
the same as our Western,
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
sort of sense of humor.
Yeah. But I often wonder if she's going a little bit crazy too, thinking that Joel, who is the music director at Playhouse Merced, that she thought that he was Elton John.
She kind of ripped into all of us there
She
on
did.
the talk show.
She totally
If people
did.
get a chance to watch that, they can
Yeah.
see. She can be ruthless, but
She was. Yeah.
We don't invite her to a lot of family parties. Of course, she stays her distance, and we stay ours, and we do our own thing, and she never comes over.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
it's okay.
Okay.
Those are some things that you just have to accept in life. Is the fact that people are going to be there for whatever the case is that they need to be there, and there's some people who don't need to be involved in your life.
So were you throwing her a bone on your show on Sunday night, just kind of like, okay, I'm going to give you a second chance?
Well,
Did she blow it?
no,
gonna be
I
back?
think her and I are. Well, of course, with having effitt being the production company and Ubiquitast being so close, and now that we're working all together, and I know that she's been working with effitt and Ubiquitast.
A little
on something.
bit. We're
So-
still working. Yeah.
So, anybody who's, and that's the same thing with anybody in Merced, is anybody who's willing to come into this medium and be a part of the production that we do, or any adjoining production or adjacent production, is always welcome on my show to talk about anything that they have and their successes. So, of course, she's always welcome back, just as
Because
anybody
you're
else is.
you.
Yeah.
Because
I'm a
you're wonderful.
That's what we aim to do, is to empower. and grow.
Empower, no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All beliefs,
All
everything
beliefs.
across the board. Okay.
No matter what.
Right on. All right. So, where do you see yourself then, even in like 5-10 years? I mean, do you see yourself in Merced? Do you see yourself, I mean, what is your ultimate just end game? What would you like to do? And you're so talented and you're still, young. And I look at you in awe just because of everything you've accomplished so far. I mean, are you going to stay in Merced? Are you going to just, keep this whole Merced needs you. You're going to, are you going to continue to mentor? Are you going to continue to teach? Are you going to continue to be with the Playhouse? Are you going to open your own thing? I mean,
I would love to open a dance studio, and that's always been a dream, and I think a lot of the public knows it, and they've seen it, and they've heard of it. I would like to do that because that is my passion, is teaching younger and even adults giving them the power to come in, because I think it benefits each other, and it's so multifaceted in the disciplinary, the performing arts. I mean, you just get so much out of performing arts that you don't get from any one structured, or not, I can't say all, but any of the really, like law, you don't really get enough of that exposure, things like that. So I really want to create a safe place where people can come to be who they are and learn what they need to learn in order to become better citizens in this community. And we have to do that from within. Nobody's going to come into Merced and change this place. No big business or corporation is going to come into Merced and make Merced a better place. We have to start from within. And which is sort of the purpose of the talk show, was now we have something that is created from inside Merced, for Merced, supported by the people in Merced.
Right.
And there's no better thing than to see a local business that was created by somebody who believes in this town so much to open a business here do so well, than to have people immediately and almost automatically discourage them from succeeding. I don't ever believe that it's I don't believe that it's the business's job to stay open. There's no way you could ever create a successful business that way. It's Merced's job to keep that business open. You have little businesses lined up and down Main Street and all over downtown and north, south, Merced. They don't stay open without the support of the people.
Right.
And the people who don't support the local business put themselves on the road to destruction. And that's what the town was. One of the worst cities in America to live in. Foreclosure rates and employment. We're bumping up, because people need to understand that we have to support ourselves. So for me to say I would leave this place would sort of be, especially in any sort of success story, to say, oh, I'm moving out to do a better thing, would be sort of a slap in the face to Merced. I plan to stay here and keep the business, keep the talk show running.
Yes.
To keep local businesses going and supporting and promoting local business, as long as people in the community are willing to be a part of that success that drives people and Merced as a community towards the greatness that it once achieved and can still achieve. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that. I'm not just blowing smoke.
Well,
Otherwise, I
you
wouldn't
do.
be
You'd
here.
be in New York.
Exactly.
Or you'd be in
LA or San Diego or San Francisco.
And it's funny because we talk about this a lot too. I mean, you know that I am hardcore business, but at the same time, I'm very hardcore nonprofits. I'm hardcore, and I don't think that you get much of that. You're either one or the other. And I will say 100 times over to the business community that there is nothing better than a child or even adult that has gone through performance arts or music or something that is extracurricular, to where you are really having to mobilize all of the multidisciplinary things that you've learned, regardless of whether it's math for blocking or memorizing lines, learning a script, The Hobbit. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, come on, and still at the same time, most of these kids and adults are doing other things. So they're committed to this and they're going in this program. I know with Honk, not only they weren't just acting, they weren't just memorizing lines, they weren't just singing. You had them doing other things. You had them, writing in journals. You had them, there were deadlines.
Yeah.
There were things that people had to do.
Absolutely.
And same with adults. And I can't stress enough, I think, to the business community, that this is not wasted money. This is not just, money just, they're stupid actors or they're this or that. No, it teaches them a very high level of discipline, regardless of what your age is. And I think that, you staying here and you instilling that in people, not only does that promote the arts and promote people to, oh wow, Chenté's directing, or he's, choreographing, or he's this or he's that, but it also promotes and instills this integrity and this drive that I don't think people these days are getting. It's, you know, people blame, oh, it's the economy or it's this or it's that. No, there are really hardworking people out there, and all you got to do is go to your local theater and see that in place.
Or any performance arts arena, the museums or music venues or anything that happens, dance and theater. The biggest thing that happens to a lot of our communities and a lot of the world, or our nation, I should say, for one, is the first thing that gets cut is the arts program.
Right.
When we lose the arts program in our societies, we lose the cultural fundamentals that create better people, who create the future of our communities.
And the discipline.
You lose self-esteem. You lose public speaking skills. You have kids now who are running the streets, texting and speaking and just doing horrible things, unspeakable things. Music leads to math skills, line memorization to better memory for SAT scores, higher SAT scores, higher English skills, higher math skills, higher everything that you think is just the fundamental reading, writing, and arithmetic stem from the cultural beginnings of arts in the involvement in the youth. Without arts, without finger painting, let those kids finger paint. Let those kids create, because that's gonna nurture those creative juices inside a child's head or anybody's head to make them become the next visionary. The next person who brings up the newest idea that cures cancer, that cures the world, that solves all the problems. You never know, but we can't stop that now. One of the greatest speakers who I've ever heard speak was Judith Jamison from the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, who said that performance arts is the springboard, that dance is the springboard from which creativeness happens, from which the most beautiful life happens. And for us to and this is how I feel about myself and about the people who run local performing artists or visual arts, or things that are happening here in Merced, is that we are the torchbearers that lead the way for those who have not the opportunity in our schooling systems, in our public system.
You're absolutely right.
There's nothing that's free in this world. And of course, with the economy the way it is, how can we deny the child the opportunity in a free education, the rights from becoming something greater than we are, or even push them to be who we want them to be, if we're not giving them the fundamentals of life?
Exactly.
And arts and dance and science and astronomy and all those things that we've ever known are created from the hand-me-downs of the rise of culture in our society. It's amazing to me how people create their own invisible ceiling, but they never rise above it in our school system.
That's a really good analogy.
There's always something more that people think, no, we can't go beyond this. We have to cut out the arts in education because we don't have the money for that.
Well, because we have to do the standardized testing, and this doesn't match the standardized testing, but they're missing the bigger picture.
How can kids learn math if they're not learning music?
Right.
How can kids learn English, basic English skills, if they're not studying Shakespeare and Chekhov and all those great writers?
What's going to get them even more pumped up than learning Shakespeare or learning J.R.R. Tolkien or learning, Hemingway or learning, just Tennessee Williams?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was theater that got me, I think, into, and I was never theater, I was always choir, but it was theater that got me into, I want to learn more about this playwright, or I want to learn more about this author. So, yeah, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's so important, and it's not liberal arts crap, it's not anything like that. It is the ability to be able to digest, be able to look at something and be able to say, yes, and get that light, get that fire under these kids and just go, this is what I want to be. I want to be a writer, or I want to be a producer, or I want to be a dancer, or I want to be a mathematician, or I want to be an astronomer. And I think it all starts with finger painting. It all starts with that tactile. It all starts with, screw we've got to teach for the test, because we will not get money for schools unless we teach for the test, and it's mandated to teach for the test. Fuck the test.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, a lot of people now, when we've moved into a society where reality TV becomes the precedent and becomes the end-all be-all, that's the point of success, is when you're on a reality TV. This is where we go wrong. I also am not, and I may get some grief also for saying this, but I am not a believer in, I don't believe that children have ADD.
Oh, I don't either.
I don't believe it. I mean, I see autism as a disease. I also see it as something that we've done to stop the creative growth in our children. You see an autistic child or a child with ADHD, and you're saying automatically that kid needs to be. Let's put him on Ritalin.
Yeah, put him on Ritalin.
Let's drug him.
Let's drug him, and let's put him in a corner where he doesn't say what he believes, or he doesn't do what he wants to do.
Give an autistic child a musical instrument, and damned if that kid doesn't learn that musical instrument in 3 months on its own, on his or her own. Give that child a video game and see if that kid doesn't understand the ins and outs of that video game and how that video game is supposed to work, because that's your babysitter right there. That's your drug.
Absolutely.
That's the invisible ceiling. When you give the kid the creativity and the ability, when we take those arts and education out, or arts out of education, you take the child, the mentality out of the child.
You take the spirit out of the child.
Of course these kids aren't achieving great math skills. How can they? You've cut off all sorts of the fundamentals of the initial building blocks of education.
I totally agree.
Colors, you've taken it out.
Totally
Numbers,
agree with
you've taken it out.
Totally agree with you. Music,
Words, you've taken it out.
Finger puppets.
And
mean,
now
the whole
you
nine.
expect these kids to achieve. The only things they can become that would ever pay today is an athlete or a reality TV show personality.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
When did we go wrong? When we were having Einsteins and Thomas Edisons of our time. The people who understood this and built greatness in our world are gone.
Yes.
Are gone.
Yeah. But they're not.
They're gone.
Because they still,
we have to do our job to nurture.
Right.
We created, it goes a long ways, and I believe completely in cultural diversity, where we stopped caring about the children and started caring about the money and started caring about, we created latchkey kids.
Yes.
We created a world where parents had to work, both parents had to work, and stopped caring about the kids' education, how they're doing in school. We need to pay the rent. We need to make sure that.
Right.
But the government also doesn't give back and say, hey, we understand you're going through all this. Let's settle everything.
Right.
Let's put the arts in education. Let's give after-school programs back to the school systems where kids can go and learn these things so that you can make a little bit of money.
Right.
We don't fund that. The government doesn't fund that.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I think it's so important to support things like Playhouse Merced. It's so important to support things like, Merced Arts.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's because
the Multicultural Arts Center, the College for Kids, Playhouse Merced Conservatory, and Playhouse Merced itself, and all the dance studios and all the visual art studios and all the performing artists in this world.
Because you were getting back even more than what you would ever anticipate. It may be an hour break for both parents that have to work. It may be, okay, this is a great summer program and they're interested in this. It may be, it's multifaceted, but at the end, you are creating kids that are going to be the next Einstein, be the next Edison, be the next Fosse, be the next Curie, everything.
Next everything that we've ever wanted our children to be. Everybody says, I want my child to be the next president.
Yes. So it's up to us. And I agree.
How are we going to get those kids there?
With programs like Playhouse Merced.
So we need to own our responsibility. Even starting, and people think, well, you have to go national, you have to go governmental, you have to go worldwide.
It can be community.
Right here in Merced, we have the ability to change the people that we're creating to become the top that sets the standard for everybody else, because somebody has to do it. And obviously people aren't worried about that
Absolutely.
right now. So who are we to say that we can't build greater community members, which will and then in change create a ripple effect, or send our kids out into the real world to be the next people who we're going to look up to in our society in the future.
And wouldn't it be ironic if it was Merced?
Yeah.
Irony.
So sorry, that's my little tirade about it.
No, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
It's so important
Yes.
to stop the BS. Stop worrying about feeding people bugs and paying them $1 million.
Yes.
Stop that. Stop worrying about making people go through obstacle courses where they make idiots of themselves and then giving them $1 million. Knock that off.
Absolutely.
We don't need that. Where's our education in our arts?
Right.
Put that back. Then I'll start talking to you about.
Then we'll have successful
Then we can have fun.
Yes.
Let's worry about work first, fun later. But right now, it's fun now, work later. Look where it's gotten us. Look where it's gotten us.
Awesome.
So,
Man.
yeah, sorry to go on a little tirade with you, but
No, that's a total great end of the show. I mean, gosh, you've just been like, you've been the spiritual guru,
well,
the
thank you.
philosophical guru.
Thank
my
you all
Aristotle,
for listening
yeah,
and watching.
The Mercedian Aristotle, Chenté. No, but thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was great. I know that people see you all the time, and I know that you're so nice and you're so wonderful, and you speak with everybody and you talk to everybody. But I really wanted people to kind of get to know you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Theresa, for having me on your show.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank
Cheers.
You so much. Cheers.
Episode 2. Right
Congratulations.
on. Oh, thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo. All right. Thank you for joining us. Episode 3 next Wednesday. Actually posted probably next Thursday, but next Wednesday here at the Partisan. So.